Okay, so I'm just going to rattle through the basics video in about 2 minutes. So if you still feel like you're at the basic stage, just keep watching the basics video and that'll take it far more slowly than this one. I'm just going to rattle through exactly what we did in that first video. So obviously the different ways of opening documents. You can have things that you've saved already on your InDesign files that you've done already. You can go to new file, or you can go to file, new, and documents. Okay. If you remember how slow this laptop was, and then you obviously want to go to print. You don't want to go to web or mobile. You want to go to print. All right. So obviously down here you've got all the sort of different measurements. We are going to be doing pages next, and your facing pages. This is for if you've got two pages facing each other like a magazine spread. All right, so that's all your options there. So let's go into the document that we were working on last week very quickly. And if you remember, the first thing we looked at was the text tool. So the text tool allows you to create text, okay, and it also lets you edit text. So as you can see, I've put in the headline, so I can either create text or edit text, or maybe once you get just into the habit of this, importing text from, so you go to file and you go to place. And if you remember, we went to the Word documents, which was down there somewhere. We open it, and as you can see, that should flow in the text in there. Okay. Then we looked at down the side as we made the text live. You can see, it's actually above now. You can see all the different options we had for increasing the size of the text. So let's select all. And as you can see, we can change the size of the text there. It should change it from 12 to 18 points. What else could we do? We could change the leading. If you remember what the leading is the size in between the two lines. Okay, so as you can see, the leading of this, or the size, is currently 60. The leading, which is just underneath, is 60. And watch what happens as I decrease the space in between the lines there. Okay, so that's a tool that you'll be using quite a bit. We can change the color, obviously. And if you remember up here, that would be here. So currently we've got a shocking purple. Let's change that to an equally shocking other color. Change that to blue. Obviously, like I said last week, we'll be also learning about creating new colors later on. You can change the font. So let's say that's currently this Arial font. The drop-down menu here. You can change it to whatever font you want. All right. Let's change that. You can change it from regular to bold. Not for that one because it's already bold, but you can change it from regular to bold. Like I say, remember what I told you about fonts. When we are designing, discipline is key. Don't try and use every single font, every single foot color, every single shape. Try to have about 2 to 3 maximum. But again, we'll go into more detail on that. Right, okay, so that's pretty much all I kind of wanted to tell you on the basics. And for text, let's have a look at the basics for graphics. That's how you draw a box. Remember the rectangular frame tool down there, file, and we went to place. Right, so this is what I wanted to tell you a little bit differently this time. So remember, if you remember, we placed the picture in. It was way too big. Okay, so the way I taught you in the original video was to firstly press Control, Shift, and drag in or drag out. This time I want you to get into the habit, just for now, of going firstly to frame fitting. So either fill frame proportionately, remember that, or fill content proportionately. Let's go back to fill frame proportionately. And then do your adjustments, okay, from there. So this needs to be a bit smaller. So we press Control, Shift, and drag. And as you can see, we do it that way. So I'd rather you did that when resizing. I do understand some of you will be working on Macs, so we'll make sure we find you the correct commands for that. It's probably more often than not going to be command rather than control. Okay, I think that's us for images. Like I say, I'm rattling through this bit because we've done it before. Let's do a text wrap. Yeah, it's quite easy. All of you managed to do it very easily. So we want the text to float around this picture. Okay, so what you have to do is you make the image live, because then that'll give you your text wrap option. All right. Last one, if we're looking at zooming in, zooming out, use this magnifying glass here to zoom in, zoom out. And then obviously you press Alt and the arrow to look quickly at the whole page, view, fit page to window. All right. I intentionally forgot to add on the hand tool. So I've created a problem here where this lady head is missing. So we want to move the image inside the frame. So you go to the hand tool, image is on, and then we just move her down that way. Okay. Going to keep saying it. There's only one way of learning all these things. Just keep doing them. Okay, and then they'll become second nature. So that was pretty much it. Remember, we did the export into PDF. Very, very easy. File exports or Control and E. Maybe in the next week or so, we'll take you on from the more longhand ways of doing it to maybe some keyboard shortcuts, but take your time doing it longhand in the first instance. Don't try and get ahead of yourself that way. Right, that's all the basic. Right, let's move on and recap everything that we did last week. Now, if you remember, the first thing we did was that we got a new workspace. We changed it to advanced. That will give us all the tools up here that we're going to be using for this week. Okay. So what did we do first? We did columns. So I've got my text here and I want to have 2 columns. Okay, so if you remember, what I went to was object, text frame options, number of columns. I want 2 columns. Now, as you can see, I've been very good. I've been an A-grade student. I've kept my preview box on. There is a way of doing that, so I'll teach you that this week, of making sure that your preview box is always on. But see what happens if my preview box is off and I change it to two columns. You don't see it until you press OK. And remember, like I say, it's all about habits. I want you to get into the habits of working in real time so that you're not making a mistake, going in, correcting it. Okay, so that was your number of columns, preview. The indent spacing, and remember the similar mistake. So let's say I wanted the indent at the top. Look what happens. The top, the bottom, the left and the right all go in. And the quick way around that is this button in the middle. If I hover over it, it says make all settings the same. I ignore that, I click that off. And then that means if I just want the top to indent, I can do that without the left, the right, and the bottom also indenting. All right, so that's your columns and your indents. Next, we're going to go to some paragraph formatting. So let's make the text live. How do we do that? We edit the text, T, right? And if you can look at the top left hand, you press that and it tells you there, paragraph formatting controls. And the first thing that we did some drop caps, didn't we? And you'll be glad to know I've got my glasses on today, so I can see these things a little bit better, these buttons. And as you can see up here, if we want to drop cap the word O, well, we want to drop cap the first letter O. Let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see you've got a nice little drop cap effect there. And remember, we also said it also looks quite cool if you maybe adjust the size of the actual text so it looks like it's bursting out a little bit. Get a bit ahead of ourselves, but that's something that you can do. Now, remember what I said about the drop cap. Sometimes you want to drop cap the whole word. How do you do that? Again, your format will be different, but it will be the one next to the drop cap box. will be about the amount of letters you select. So currently you can see this is 1. And if we wanted to do the whole word OK, I'm going to bring down the size a little bit just for the sake of this. But I wanted the whole word OK, 4 letters, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that drop caps your whole word. Okay, so we did indents as well. So we're in this paragraph here. And if you look at the one where you can see a little arrow on the first line, hover over it, it says first line indent, left indent. And we're just going 1, 2, 3. Again, very rarely you'll have to use these because we'll set them as paragraph styles, but usually we indent the paragraph. If you want to indent the whole paragraph, so this would be for, let's just get rid of this picture for 2 minutes. So you want to indent, so let's say you're having a breakout quotes or something like that. You'd maybe make it a little bit bigger, you'd maybe make it italic, and then you would maybe make it stand out by indenting the whole paragraph like that. You see what's happening there? It's coming away from the default position. So that's to indent the whole paragraph. Just to the next of it would be how you would do it in the right-hand way. I won't teach you that for now, that's fine. Spaces between paragraphs is this one here. So let's say we highlight the 2 paragraphs here and we can bump up the space between 2 paragraphs. Can you see what's happening there? So again, that would be when you're looking to break out, and space between lines is just below it, okay? And then the last one, as we go into the headline, what I've done is I've deliberately made this a little bit too long. Remember that we don't squeeze too much, but we can squeeze a little bit. This button here, T with the squeeze on it, and let's see what happens as I make it a little bit smaller. I make it to 93, doesn't look too badly squeezed, and it gets onto 1 line. All right. So the 3 basics that I taught you underneath the edit tab at the top. We go to edit, check spelling is always a godsend for students. There you go, spelling, check spelling. Find and change, remember that one. So let's say if I wanted to find a word which I've spelt wrong, I could go to edit, find and change. Let's say if I spelled Macy's wrong all the way through my magazine just before I was about to hit print, I would just do that and then change it to the correct spelling, and that would change all the way through. All right, so that's for that. And let's just take an example from the words which we've got here. So I can see that the word cloth is in there quite a lot. Let's change the word cloth to Macy's. Let's not mention cabbages like we did last week with for the sake of the video. And as you can see, the word cloth changes to Macy's all the way through. So find and change is a good one. The last one I told you was edit, and edit in story editor. And as you can see, what will happen is your text will be brought up in a more accessible, easy to edit box. All right. Remember the shortcuts. Remember there's 2 ways of opening text. There's not just your T button. If you click on your text twice, I'm going to click off it. If you click on your text twice, bang, bang, it makes it live. If you click on your text 3 times, well done to the people who managed to get it first time. It selects your line. And if you click on it 4 times, it selects your paragraph. Okay, just little shortcuts. Don't worry if you don't get it. You can just use your mouse tool to highlight paragraphs, but it's just for when you're working at a quicker pace. Control A, as you remember, what did that do? That selected all your text. Control Shift A deselects all your text. Control and Home brought your cursor to the top of the page, and Control and End brought your cursor to the end of the text. Okay, let's go quickly through shapes. Remember, it was down here, the rectangle tool. Remember what happens when you right click it? You get the other options of different shapes, but just for simplicity, let us draw a very basic box, so just a typical square. And remember your fill, which is the color of the box, is up here. Make that purple. And for the stroke, which is the outline, is just below it. And let's make that blue. Can we see the blue? No, we can't. Why can't we see the blue? Because up here, as you can see, the default position is 1%, is 1 point, and we want to make it a lot thicker than that. Okay. So let's make it 8 points. And as you can see, the once you make it 8 points, it wasn't live. Once you make it 8 point, you can see you get a far thicker outline around it. Okay, so that's your fill, your strokes. The last one was the tint, which I told you, which is just in here in the fill. And watch what happens as we slide it down. We can change how light or how dark the shape is, the color is. All right, so fills, strokes, and tints of shapes. Then I tell you what I'll do. I'll move on to the other things that we were doing with shapes before we go to FX. We rotated it. So to rotate the box, we did that, and it flips it by 90-degree angles. More importantly, would be the tilt. Now remember, it's the top one, not this one. It's the top one. Quite an important one. And then also another important thing is if you are tilting things, probably around about 5 will do your 4 to 5. Anything more than that, and the reader will get a sore neck having to read things. Okay, but again, defaults are there to be broken in design, but that's just a default, I would say. To duplicate was really easy, wasn't it? Alt, so you click on it, hit Alt and drag, and that duplicates. If I wanted this to be at the front, this box here to be at the front rather than this one, so basically I go to it, I go to Object, I go to Arrange, and bring to front. And as you can see, that brings it. Do the opposite again. Want to bring it back, center back. One thing I didn't tell you, it might be something that I'll just have to show you live just to really make it simple, would be, let's say you've got lots and lots of shapes, lots of objects, and you just can't seem to click on it because too many things are on your page. If you hold down Control and click, eventually it will give you the option of clicking the different boxes. Okay, that's something, like I say, I'll probably show you in real time in the next class. Yeah, let's do the FX then. So clicking on that, and this one up here, FX. All right, so remember we did the different things. We had a look at the drop shadow. What have I not done? I've not pressed preview, B- to me. Right, and you can see there, drop shadow. Let's click off that. We did the bevel and emboss, which is a nice little sort of 3D effect. All right, as you can see down here, there's plenty of different settings we can play with. We can maybe do that when we start on the design. I deliberately won't flood you with information on that one. And we also did a directional feather, didn't we? And you can do that in different directions. You can do it from left to right, you can do it from top to bottom. Let's do it from top to bottom, and you can see the effect of that sort of that whoosh feathering effect. I'll probably start to get you to look at examples of where you see that in magazines, and maybe bring me in an example of a directional feather, of a bevel and emboss, of a drop shadow. Okay, because you start seeing all these things. What was the last effect we did? I think we did transparency, didn't we? So very, very top, transparency, and you can mess around with the opacity. Let's make it 20. That's what we did last time, I think. And that gives you a transparent effect that you then, if you put on top of your picture, it gives you sort of like almost like a tint on top of your picture. Okay, so that's all your effects. We did the front to back. Okay, so we also looked at corner options. So that would be underneath effects, object, drop down, corner options, and then play around with all the different corner options that you can use on there. Again, what's Tom not done? He's not pressed preview. Terrible. And you can see you can get your different types of corners that you can play about with. Okay, like I say, just keep playing about with these buttons so they become second nature. So that's your corner options, your duplications, your rotations, all your effects, your fill, your stroke, the tints. One last one. Remember, we talked about the text wrap and ignoring the text wrap. All right, so I want a caption on this picture here. Okay, so very simple. I draw a text box and I put in the word fashion. Get through this very quickly. You don't need to know what I'm doing here. All right, so I've got the word fashion here, and I want my caption to go on top of the box. What happens? It won't let me do it. It will not let me put that on. Why? Because remember, we said all text wraps around this box. All right, so it'll either make it disappear completely, or as you can see, it'll just knock it away. So what you're trying to say is, well, yes, okay, I did say that, but for the sake of this time, I want to ignore the text wrap. So there's a few ways of doing it, but we'll do it through text frame options. So go to Object, text frame options. Again, if you know quicker ways, if you're a little bit advanced in your knowledge and you know quicker ways, stick to your quicker ways. This is just the way I'm showing you more longhand. You go to Ignore Text Wrap. As you can see, I've been a good student. I've put my preview box on, and already we can see that the caption can now go on top of the picture. Okay, so that was everything that we worked through in the second week. A few more things to come, but you've got a lot of basic designs that you can really start to draw pages from there.